Welcome to the broadcast. My name is John Mayfield, the real estate tech guide for Global Real Estate School. And this is going to be a Missouri real estate specific presentation. So if you're in one of our other states, I want you to understand right off the bat, this is specifically for Missouri students. Now, what I'm doing, I've created what I call a cheat sheet, okay? And although we're not cheating, so don't panic, but a lot of times I use what are called cheat sheets for shortcuts on my computer and software applications. And I thought to myself, wouldn't it be interesting if I could create some cheat sheets for the state-specific information? So what I basically did was I went to each state's candidate handbook. I looked at the outline from the testing agency for the state material only. And from that state outline in your candidate handbook, which, by the way, this is all available in your additional references tab, I looked at the outline from the testing agency and I just went bullet point by bullet point, and I tried to condense it down into a very manageable, easy to read and go over guide or cheat sheets to help you pass the state portion of the exam. More specifically, to help you pass the state portion of the exam, because what these cheat sheets are designed to do is to help you study. So the way I want this to work is you'll be watching the video in the main course, this video right here, as I go through the cheat sheet and the topics, and I'll kind of remind you and go over some specific points and features for you. And then I'm going to pull the audio off so that you can listen to this when you're in your car, when you're exercising, and you might go through the cheat sheet with me on the video a couple, 3 times, or once. You're going to have to go through it to finish the school. After that, I'll have the video on your dashboard, so if you want to watch this video again, you can go through the video with me. But if you want to listen to it, I'm going to pull the audio off and you can listen to it and look at your cheat sheet. So let's get started and go through some of the topics here. Now, for definitions, you're going to have 2 questions from that category on definitions. And one of the questions, and you very well could see this question, it's been around for years. They want to know what Chapter 339 is. It's a license law. In Missouri, Chapter 339 is the license law. Now, commission, unless you're reading a question where there's monetary money involved, but if you see the word commission, they're normally talking about the real estate commission. Definition you need to know. Who needs a license and who doesn't need a license? You're going to have two questions from that section. And here's what I would suggest you put in your memory bank. If someone's performing some type of activity, whether it's a lease, an option, an exchange, or they're offering to do that, or they're helping or assisting, or they're anything that you look at in the question and say, well, that's a real estate activity. If they're doing that and they're receiving compensation for that, or they're even advertising themselves out to do that, they need a real estate license. You cannot do any of those items without having a license. Now, they love to have the question about some guy from Florida comes into Missouri and starts peddling real estate in Florida. Does he need a license? Yes. We don't care if it's in this state or somewhere else. If you're listing, selling, leasing, exchanging, doing any of those things, and you're doing it on a full-time basis, you need a license, okay? You need to know that salespeople must affiliate with a broker. As a salesperson, you cannot have your license out on your own. Now, keep this in mind for brokers too, because I'm a broker officer of my company, Mayfield Real Estate, Inc. Mayfield Real Estate, Inc. as a broker holds a license. I'm a broker officer. I'm working under Mayfield Real Estate, Inc. I'm also the designated broker to the commission, but just understand that even broker salespersons or broker associates, they have to affiliate with a broker. So salespeople must affiliate with a broker. And remember, salespeople can only receive compensation from their broker. They love that question too. They love to, draw this real pretty cute scenario about a salesperson and a broker from another office, and they were real nice, and he did all this hard work, and bless his heart, this, that, and the other. And can the other broker pay that salesperson? The answer's no. Okay? You, as a salesperson, can only receive commission from your broker. So don't forget that. Remember that we all have to be licensed under a broker. So when I renewed my license recently, I had to renew the corporation license as well as my broker officer license, 2 different licenses. Now, who doesn't need a license? Well, if you're selling your property as a for sale by owner, you don't need a license. If you start to do this on a full-time basis, yeah, you probably do need a license. But just for a single for sale by owner, don't worry, don't need a license. If you're selling property for a business, corporation, partnership, and you are an employee of that business, you don't need a license unless the company has set up a separate company to buy and sell real estate. Well, then, you would need a license. But provided the business, that's not their primary activity, they don't need a license, okay? Licensed attorneys, put that in your memory bank, don't need a license. Auctioneers employed by the owner do not need a license to sell the real estate if they're employed by the seller of the property. If you're acting under any kind of a court order, like a trustee, an executor, you don't need a license for that. If you're a bank selling your own bank's property that you foreclosed on, don't need a license to do that. Property managers, some of their employees don't need licenses. So if you're working for a property manager and you're delivering leases or lease amendments or applications, or you're showing their unit under the supervision of your broker or the owner, hey, you do not need a license, okay? Now, if you're working for an owner and you're managing property and they're paying you compensation, remember that thing I told you earlier about are you getting paid compensation? You'd need a license, okay? But if I'm a broker and I want to open a property management division, my daughter Allie works for me. She doesn't have a license yet. She's going to get her license. Could I have her go and show property and deliver leases and do clerical and maintenance work and some other things here, deliver applications, security deposits and collect payments and so forth? Yeah, she could do that and doesn't need a license. So read the question. Limited things that people working for a property manager or an owner showing properties would not need to have a license. Government employees performing their government daily duties, public utility companies, railroads, provided they're doing their daily duties. Now, I've got a test question in my material that says an independent contractor was buying and selling easements. Would he need a license? Yes, because he's not an employee of that public utility company. We talked about banks and trust companies selling their own properties. And if you're a developer selling Missouri land owned by the developer, wouldn't need a license. Economic development companies, our city chamber has an economic development director. He doesn't need it, or she doesn't need a license to do that, provided they're just selling the chamber's properties. So the key is they can't be selling someone else's property to try to bring industry in. They can't do that, but they can, refer that to the owner, say, hey, call that person. We know they've got it for sale. And they cannot be paid bonuses or commissions or anything like that through the chamber. They can only be paid a salary, okay? And they need to sell their own property. Newspapers, magazines, internet sites, provided that the main focus is not real estate, they wouldn't need a license. And if you're kind of pitching property for a neighborhood association or a subdivision, somebody pulls in and you tell them the price and give them a brochure and tell them other information. I think you can even share some of that on your internet site or social media site. You wouldn't need a license because you're just working within that subdivision. I don't think they'll ask you one of those questions. If they do, just understand that if a person is doing something and they're receiving compensation for real estate activities, probably going to need a license. Be on the lookout for key points like the independent contractor, I think would be very good as well. And then I've got a note here. Missouri Real Estate Commission will not hear commission disputes, period. Hey, you'll probably see a question, maybe two questions about two brokers getting in a fight about a commission, or even a broker and one of their own salespeople got cheated out of a commission and they file a complaint with the real estate commission. What's the real estate commission going to do? They're not going to hear it, period. Now, there's two questions from those two items you might get from that section. Chapter 339 is known as the license law. Just know don't make these too challenging. You're only going to have two questions from this batch. And I think you'll be able to tell, should this person have a license or not? And if they're getting paid compensation and they're doing it on a full-time basis and they're not working for a company as an employee, they're an independent contractor, then yeah, they're probably going to need a license, okay? So put in your memory bank attorneys, auctioneers employed by the owner, and some of the other things we talked about there. Two items from there. Now let's talk about licenses. 7 items from this section. So first bunch of key bullet points is what you need to know about getting your real estate license. So you got to complete a 48-hour course. That's what you're doing. You're almost done with it, okay? 48-hour pre-license course. Now, once you finish this video, you're going to be taking your final test, state and national test. I know some people say, I thought we already took some review tests, John. Well, I want to make sure that you pass that test, okay? I got an email today from one of my students, and he said there were 7 people there. He was the only one who passed. They weren't from my school, and he said, John, I went out of there. He passed. He said, you really prepared me for that test. Thank you. So I'm going to give you a lot more stuff. That's why I'm doing these cheat sheet videos. A lot of my students prior to you didn't have the opportunity for this, but I'm always trying to figure out ways to make this school better. So you've got to take the 48-hour course. Of course, you have to be 18 years of age or older. Once you complete the 48-hour course, so once you take your final exams, you are going to change your date on your certificate, and you're going to print your certificate out, and I'm going to get noticed that hey, John Smith or Mary Smith just completed the school. I report that to the Real Estate Commission on a roster. Today, September 22, 2020, Mary Smith finished the 48-hour course. Your 6 months begins from today's date, Mary. So you have October, November, December, January, February, March 22nd to pass both parts of the exam. And that's the second bullet points. You got to pass the national test, which is 100 questions, and you have to make a 70%. And you have 40 questions on the state, you have to make a 75%. Sometimes they will throw 5 new questions on there that you're not graded on. They're just testing to see how people do on those. So Mary finishes today, September 22nd. In a video I show you, Mary, you're going to go into your company name and you're going to put under the company name March 22, 2021. Why do you put that date in? because on your certificate that's in your course dashboard under your achievements, once you finish, it's going to say this certificate expires on March 22, 2021. So Mary has 6 months from today to take her exams, pass both exams, get fingerprinted, and have her broker sign her application. Once she does that, she can apply for a license. Now, you also, Mary, have to finish, I'm talking to a fictitious person right now, Mary also has to finish the 24-hour practice course. Now, what I suggest and recommend is that you finish the 48-hour course, go take your test, pass it, then come back and take the 24-hour course, okay? If you come back and take the 24-hour course, then get fingerprinted, then go to your broker, have your application signed, submit everything in to get your license. And Mary has to do that before when? March 22, 2021. Now, in Mary's dashboard, it may say your course is valid through March 17, 2021, or some date like that. It won't be March 22 because my system counts out 180 days. But the Real Estate Commission wants you to put the 22nd, 6 months out, the same date that you finish, okay? So I'm going to go through these again. You're going to have 7 items in any of this under licenses. Complete the 48-hour school. Once you finish this 48-hour school, clock starts ticking. You have 6 months. Pass both the exams. And by the way, I don't even want to say this, but for those students who go to other schools beside Global Real Estate School and they only pass part of the exam, they only have to take the part they didn't pass, okay? Global Real Estate School students are going to pass both parts of the first try. You come back, complete the 24-hour course, get fingerprinted, and then complete your application with your broker and pay the appropriate fee. Now, a couple of key things you need to know. You must complete the 48-hour course before you can sign up for the test, period. They ask you that question. Have you finished the 48-hour course? If you lie and say yes, there's a good chance you won't get a license because it's not going to match the roster date that I send in to the commission. That's why we have to send a roster in. I've had students say, well, I wanted to set up the test on Friday and I knew I was going to finish the school over the weekend, but it clearly asks you, have you finished the 48-hour course? And if you lie to the testing agency and that date doesn't match with the roster, they will probably not issue you a license, okay, period. So you cannot sign up for the test until you finish the 48-hour course. You can come back and take the 24-hour course later, but you cannot take the 24-hour practice course until you've completed the 48-hour course. So really there's 2 things you need to know here. You can't set up your test until you finish the 48-hour course, and you can't take your exam until you finish the 48-hour course, okay? Now, you have 180 days, 6 months from the date you finish the 48-hour course to complete all of the steps. Otherwise, you got to go back through the school again. You don't want to do that. So, a couple of other notes here. Must show proof you are of good moral character. You can safeguard the public interest. That's why I tell you, if you lie about that to the testing agency, they consider that you're not of good moral character and they probably won't give you a license. You've got to be 18 years of age or older at the time you make application. A lot of times I have students come through my school and they're 17, but they're going to turn 18 in a month or 2. Well, as long as they finish the school, pass the test, do all of that stuff, and then they turn 18, then they can file their application. But remember, they got to do all that within a 6-month time frame. course, you have to pay the exam fee, make proper application. You've got to affiliate with a broker. We've talked about that. Include your certificate from both courses, the 48-hour and the 24-hour, and get everything filed within 180 days. Don't forget the required 24-hour practice courses after the main course, and you will also need to be fingerprinted. The commission will grant a temporary license. Upon final approval, this work permit can be withdrawn at any time by the commission. That could be a question. For a broker's license, the same rules apply. The only thing you need to know, it's still a 48-hour course. Everything's the same, except you have to have been practicing real estate for for at least 2 years immediately preceding the date of application. So in other words, I just had one of my students who went through my broker's course for Missouri. He was a previous Global Real Estate School student. His 2-year anniversary wasn't really up until this month, but he took the school back in July, passed the test in August. He's just holding on to the paperwork, and once his 2-year anniversary goes by this month, he'll apply for his broker salesperson's license. So again, you can't make application until you've had a salesperson's license for a minimum of 2 years. Our license are renewed every 2 years on even years. So I'm in 2020 now. We're renewing our license now. Brokers is June 30th. Salesperson's is September 30th. They've made some adjustments for COVID-19, but for the exam, brokers must renew on or before June 30th. Salespersons on or before September 30th. Hey, Salesperson S, September S. Remember that, okay? Now, one other thing I want to mention here is the broker, I just talked to a guy the other day, and he renewed his broker associate license, but he forgot to renew his company license. And he's got people licensed under him. Well, guess what? His company cannot do business because he should have renewed both licenses. And actually, all of his salespeople cannot conduct any business. So he had to go back, take the 24-hour practice course from me, pay the delinquent fee, get licensed by the commission, and tell all of his agents, you're just kind of in a lame duck session. Don't do anything real estate-wise until we get this fixed. So just remember, when you're renewing your broker's license, renew the company license as well. If the company doesn't renew, you're in trouble. You got to show proof of attending 12 hours of what we call continuing education. We'll talk about this more. 9 hours are elective, 3 hours are required. Again, salespersons, September 30th, even years. Brokers, June 30th, even years. When there's a death or incapacity of the licensed broker or one or more of the licensed general partners, officers, managers, members, or associations, and so forth, the commission will grant a temporary broker's license, which will really just be to wrap up the affairs of the broker. We talk about that in the course. So that's the only thing the temporary broker can do is wrap up the affairs. And if you don't renew your license on time, it's a $50 per month or partial month, not to exceed $200, and you have to take the 24-hour practice course. So if your broker's license is $50 to renew and you're 1 day late, you're going to have to pay $100, $50 per month or partial month delinquent fee, plus the original fee to renew your license. That's $50 and $50 is $100. And then you're going to have to take the 24-hour practice course. So $50 per month or partial month, not to exceed $200. And show proof of completing the 24-hour practice course. Remember, if you have a change in your name, home, or business address, notify the commission within 10 days. I've seen those questions, so know that. You can place your license on inactive status for $50. You can reactivate it for $50 as well. Broker salesperson license is someone who's just, when I got my broker's license, my mom was a broker officer, and Mayfield Real Estate Inc. was a brokerage company. So I got my broker's license and I surrendered it because I didn't want to be a broker on my own for what's called a broker salesperson's license. Today, I've switched that over to a broker officer. As a broker officer, I cannot have anyone licensed under me or a broker salesperson. Nobody can be licensed under you. We're all licensed under our principal broker. I don't have to have a trust account as a broker officer or a broker salesperson. Still have to renew my license by June 30th, even years. And I can transfer to a broker's license and hold my own license on my own at any time. It's just a $50 fee. Remember, it's always a $50 transfer fee and so forth. Corporations like Mayfield Real Estate Inc., I'm the broker officer, so my license is a broker officer. If you're a partnership, it would be a broker partner. And remember, there's only one designated broker. In my situation, it's Mayfield Real Estate Inc. Broker salespersons must still operate under the direct supervision of their broker. Now, it talks about transfers in 72 hours. What this is all about is if you came to me and wanted to transfer your license to a competitor, I have to surrender your license within 72 hours. I can't hold on to your license. I've got to return it to the commission as soon as possible. Same thing if I'm sending your license back in and I have to notify you by registered letter or some way notifying you that, hey, your license has been sent back to the real estate commission. The reason being is that, sometimes I've had people who worked for me and I never heard from them. And that was back in the day. I mean, I'm still responsible for MLS dues and things if you don't pay those. And so I'd have people that, you just never could get in touch with them. They never came in the office. Their MLS books were growing in the back room. And you tried to get a hold of them. And it's like, you know what? I don't want to be responsible for them anymore. I want people on the team who are producing. And I didn't have that a lot. But if I just sent their license back in, I've got to send them some type of letter or notice saying, hey, your license has been returned to the commission, because they only have 6 months to do something with their license, or it goes into a different state that we'll talk about down the road. So basically what happens is it would go into inactive status, and then they may have to take additional education and so forth. We understand you can transfer back and forth at any time. You can only be associated with one broker. If the application for transfer or change in status is not made within the 6-month period, the applicant will be required to complete the required Missouri real estate practice course. So that's why you have to the broker needs to give them a dated and timed receipt to the licensee when the license submits a letter of termination to the broker. So if I'm terminating you, I've got to give you a dated and timed receipt, and it's generally good to do that certified. Normal transfers. You got to remember that listings belong to the broker. That's a test question. Listings are not between the broker and the salesperson. Between the salesperson and the client. Listings are between the broker and the client. Same way with buyer agency agreements. That's a test question. So just know that. And know that you have to turn all of the property you have back over to the broker. So all of your agency agreements would stay with the broker. Now, if you're denied a license, you have the right to petition to the Administrative Hearing Commission, and they will hear your petition on why you feel like you should be issued a license. says any person denied a license or the right to be examined shall be so notified by the commission in writing, stating the reasons for denial or refusal to examine and informing the person so denied of his right to file a complaint with the Administrative Hearing Commission. So if you see a question and a person's denied a license, they have the right to file an appeal to the Administrative Hearing Commission. Now, I could go through some of these, but I mean, if you see that a person was denied a license for child pornography, forcible rape, second-degree sexual assault, burglary, extortion, child molestation, robbery. I mean, anything that you read and it's like, wait a minute, that's not good. You probably could be denied your license, okay? So there's a lot of stuff there, but I think common sense will tell you if a person had their license revoked in another state or they've been guilty of something, and even, a lot of they've added a lot of things in here for involving child pornography, exploiting children, possession of child pornography, furnishing pornography. I mean, there's a lot of stuff here. I think you're going to be able to just see those questions and say, you know what, that probably could be denied a license. So if you've been denied a license, remember you can appeal to the Administrative Hearing Commission, okay? And you have 90-day, notice of such appeal must be received by the Administrative Hearing Commission within 90 days of mailing by certified mail the notice of revocation. Appeals, I was just double checking that. Look for the obvious. That's a note I have there. If it's a serious crime or conviction, the license could be denied, okay? Now, I've got fees on here. Fees are never refundable. They won't accept cash. And most of these are $50. Application, $50. Broker fee issuance, $80. Salesperson issuance, $40. Renewal broker, $50. Salesperson, $40. All transfer fees are $50. And I would know some of these inactive fees as well. Non-resident broker, $150. Non-residents, $100. Delinquent fees, $50 per month or partial month, not to exceed $200. Certificate of licensure, $10. I've been doing a lot of that here lately. So those shouldn't be too difficult. Educational requirements, we've already covered those. I kind of go back over them again here. CE, 12 hours every 2 years. 9 hours elective, 3 required. They won't let you do salesmanship, technology, marketing courses. I've got a list of things here that are not counted. If you see anything that's on like motivation, business skills, marketing, social media, generally not going to let that count as CE. If you're 50 minutes for 1 hour, 10 minutes for break. Online CE, you have to take a test. Don't let that worry you. I make the test fairly easy. And instructors can count their time teaching CE as CE. If it's a course shorter than 2 hours, it's not allowed for CE. The key is courses have to benefit the public in some way. So again, looking at the obvious, don't overthink these questions. If you see a question and it's on typing skills or it's on self-motivation or something and you're saying, wait a minute, how does that benefit the public or safeguard the public? It's not going to count for CE. So I think most of those will be fairly significant. Active duty, armed services, throughout the 2 years you may be exempt. I've got some notes here. If you're licensed to practice law in front of in Missouri, don't need to take CE. They already have some courses they have to take. If you're 80 years of age or older, you don't have to take CE. If you're a member of the United States House or Senate, Missouri House or Senate, you don't have to take CE. I guess they help craft some of our laws, so that was one way to get that passed. But if they're a member of the Missouri House of Representatives or the Missouri Senate, they don't have to take CE if they have a real estate license, okay? And if you're a member of the Missouri Real Estate Commission during any portion of the renewal period to which the waiver applies. Now, brokers are responsible for their licensees' actions. Make sure you understand any scenario that does something wrong. Both the licensee, the salesperson, and the broker are liable for those actions. Now, there are some things that if the broker could prove that I had meetings and you saw a question and I trained and you should have known better and it was in my policy and procedures, and you're looking and saying, wait a minute, that person went totally against what the broker had taught them, then yes, the salesperson would be liable by themselves. But generally, if I knew about it and I didn't take any corrective action, I could be liable as well. And that's what this next section really talks about. Reasonable procedures have been established to verify adequate supervision. Upon learning of the violation, I attempted to prevent or mitigate the damage. I didn't participate in the violation. I didn't ratify the violation, and I didn't attempt to avoid learning. There's just some conduct and practices there that I think you can go over and be good. Branch offices. If you maintain a branch office, each office shall be operated under the same name as the principal parent company. Can't have different names. Project sales, leasing, or management offices maintained on site in an apartment building, development project, duplex apartment are not required to be registered as branch offices. So if you're in an apartment complex or a shopping center, an office building shopping center, and you have some type of project sales or leasing office, wouldn't have to register that branch office. Now, it must be under the direct supervision of the broker. Could the broker manage more than one branch office? There's a question. The answer is yes, if they're directly supervising everyone. You have to read the question. If there's for some reason tipping you off that they're not in direct supervision, they can't do that. You don't have to show you don't have to have the licenses on the wall. When I first got my real estate license, we had to have our licenses on the wall, but today we just have to have them either at the principal office or at the branch office. They can be kept at either place, and they only have to be shown upon request, okay? Could be a test question on that. So remember that licenses can be at the main office or kept at the branch office. Now, regarding advertising, the brokerage name needs to be in all advertisements as well as the brokerage phone number. No blind ads. The consumer must know they're dealing with a real estate agent or agency. The agent name and phone number is permissible on signs and ads. However, the brokerage name and the phone number must also be included. So we've always got to have the brokerage name and phone number in our ads and on our signs. That's advertising. If you're selling or leasing real estate you own, and excuse me just a second while I excuse me. Here's the way this works on advertising for property you own. If you list your property with the company or even with another broker, you do not have to put agent owner or broker owner on the sign, okay? If you don't list it with the company, then you have to put agent owner, broker owner on the sign, period. Now, keep in mind, you always have to disclose your licensee status on contracts and forms, period. All right? So I'm in the process of rehabbing a house right now in Park Hills that I've owned for a number of years. and we just want to get out of the rental market. So we're rehabbing a house that we own. If I don't list that with Mayfield Real Estate, Inc., then I need to put on my sign for sale by owner broker. Okay? Public needs to know that. In fact, I need to put that on all advertisements. At the end, owner broker. All contracts that I would sign with any buyer, I need to put disclosed to the customer, depending if I probably wouldn't be working with them as a client in that situation since I'm selling it on my own, but I need to include my licensee status. Now, if I list that house, and I plan to do that with my real estate agency, my philosophy is this: if I'm going to ask other people to pay me a commission, I need to be willing to pay a commission myself. And I've always had that as a rule at my office for my agents. So when I list the property with Mayfield Real Estate, we hope to list it here in the next couple of weeks, I don't have to put owner agent in any ads or on the sign. I can put a Mayfield Real Estate sign out front, and it can just be a Mayfield Real Estate sign. Call my number. Well, it will come to me. Now, on any contracts, I need to disclose that I'm a licensed agent. But see, since I've listed the property with Mayfield Real Estate, I don't have to disclose that anymore. So that's kind of how all of that works on advertising. Just remember, always disclose your licensee status on all contracts, any kind of legal contract that you have, and make sure that if it's not listed with a company, that you put owner, broker, owner, agent on the sign and in the ad. And they'll tip you off on those questions. You'll be fine. Just know that principle there. You can't use gifts, prizes, and other things to induce people. Okay, I'm at about 42 minutes. I think I'll do one more sheet, and I'm going to break this up into two. There were quite a few things with this cheat sheet that I need to go over with you. Listing agreements. Net listings are illegal in Missouri. Understand the difference between open exclusive agency and exclusive right to sell. Remember, an open listing, you can list it with as many brokers as you want, and you as the seller can sell it without paying a commission. Whoever sells it gets to earn the commission. Exclusive agency gives you a little more protection as a broker because you are the exclusive agent, but the seller can still sell it on their own and not pay a commission. And so the best type of listing to have is an exclusive right to sell listing. Doesn't matter who sells it, the owner or any other broker, you're going to get paid your commission. And remember, from your commission, you will then pay your agents and pay out any broker fee to another broker. And if there's a disagreement on the commission and somebody wants to file a complaint with the real estate commission, they will not hear commission disputes. Okay. Net listings illegal. You can't do that. Remember, in net listings, when I say, John, all I want's $100,000, anything over that you can have. That's a net listing. That's illegal in Missouri. Listings are the property of the broker, not the salesperson. All of these you're going to see questions on. And all listings must have a definite expiration date. No automatic renewals. Definite expiration date. Need to have a fee in there. Commissions are always negotiable. No net listings. Of course, you need to make sure all the terms and conditions are followed. Promptly deliver any offers to the seller, including backup offers, counter offers. I've got information here. Don't forget, multiple offers must be presented with all offers together. That's probably a test question there. You have an offer come in and you call the seller, and before you're able to present it, another offer comes in, what do? You present both offers at the same time. Offers can be withdrawn at any time prior to acceptance. That's rescinding the contract, and that's perfectly legal. Earnest money would totally be immediately given back to the person if they rescinded the contract. If you have any change to a contract, everybody needs to initial it. Acceptance of each fully executed contract shall include the date at which final agreement was reached, either by specific acknowledgement of final acceptance date or date of the last signature or initial to the contract. And always caution your client to understand the risk if an offer is presented to assume a loan. That could be a test question. What they're talking about there is, if I let you assume my loan, I could still be liable for that loan assumption. In other words, if you don't make the payments on the loan and the bank can't collect from you, they may come back and collect from me. So you've always got to make sure your client understands the caution of that type of situation. And remember, you're going to see this question on the exam too. You can never give legal advice, okay? If they're going to have a question that you can't get outside your expertise. So you always recommend they seek legal advice. So don't do that. If you're in a franchise, you must disclose this on all contracts that you are independently owned and operated. Remember, you can accept anything as earnest money. Excuse me. There have been test questions in the past about diamond rings, boats, goofy stuff for earnest money. And the answer is that legal? And the answer is yes, provided everybody agrees to it. If the seller agrees to it, it's legal. I've never in my life had a ring or a boat or anything like that given to me as earnest money. And I had a lady who's going through my course now, and she asked me about that, and I said, yeah, it's true, and it's a test question. And she said, funny, I've been in the title company business for years, and I've never seen anything like that as earnest money. I have seen a promissory note. I promised to pay $500, and I had sellers agree to that. If everybody agrees to it, it's okay. Just remember that. Salespeople must turn over earnest money to their broker immediately. Test question. Salespeople cannot hold earnest money. Brokers need to deposit the earnest money quickly, and I think I have that somewhere over here. We have 10 banking days in Missouri to get that in the bank. We can only use standardized forms that have been approved by broker legal counsel, and we can only fill in the blanks. That's Hulse versus Krieger. So remember that. You can't make a separate charge for completing standardized forms, and so forth. Every broker needs to deliver or cause to be delivered to the buyer and the seller in every real estate transaction a closing statement. And you as a broker need to verify the closing statement, okay? Verify the accuracy of the closing statement. If the buyer and seller are represented by different brokers, it shall be the responsibility of the listing broker, make a note of that, to deliver or cause to be delivered the closing statements. If a broker personally handles a closing on the day of closing, the broker shall sign and date the closing statement. And I've done that before. We used to do a lot of those. We can arrange for it to be closed at a title company, but again, we have to verify the accuracy. I was audited recently, and there was one item he found where on the closing statement they had a $50 charge and it just said other, and they wrote me up because I should have had the title company spell out what that $50 was for. So it's my job to be accurate. If there's 2 brokers involved, listing broker's responsibility. Make sure the broker's legible copies. A salesperson never can conduct a closing, so keep that. It says except under the direct supervision of the manager or broker. So I guess you could see a question, and as a salesperson you could, as long as you were under the direct supervision, so keep that in mind. You have to keep records for 3 years. That's probably a test question. If you fail to respond to a complaint within 30 days, the commission could take disciplinary action against you. That happens a lot. I'm friends with a lot of them at the Real Estate Commission, and the director was telling me, John, you'd be surprised the number of people we send written complaints to, and we never hear from them. Now, or they come back and it says they moved. Now remember, you have to change your name within 10 days. You have to let them know of any change within 10 days. And again, you must be an active real estate licensee in order to earn a commission fee, etc. Active, not inactive licensee. Keep that in mind. Now, I got a whole slew of stuff on disciplinary proceedings. I want to try to... these, I think, are pretty self-explanatory. What happens when a complaint comes in? When a complaint comes in, the Missouri Real Estate Commission will look at the complaint, and if they feel there's been a violation, they will send a letter to you and ask for your side of the story. So they're going to collect evidence and do some investigating. And once they collect all of that, they might even have you, come to a hearing before them to answer some questions. If they feel there may have been a violation, they send it over to the Administrative Hearing Commission. Remember, that's the person you go to when you've been denied a license. And the Administrative Hearing Commission will hear the argument and make a decision, guilty or not. Okay? That's all they do. They hear it, make a decision. They, in turn, give it back over to the Missouri Real Estate Commission. They may recommend a punishment, but it's the Missouri Real Estate Commission who will actually set the punishment. Does that make sense? So it goes to the Missouri Real Estate Commission. It's investigated, looked at. I think there might be a problem here. They send it over to the AHC, Administrative Hearing Commission, who then hears it, makes a ruling, and recommends punishment or disciplinary action. They send it back to the Missouri Real Estate Commission, who will in that case make the final determination. Hey, we don't care what the Administrative Hearing Commission says, we're jerking his license and revoking it. Or, we know you want us to revoke their license, but we're just going to put them on probation for a year. So that's kind of that whole process. And a lot of things you're going to kind of hear, and I want you to read through this cheat sheet here. You'll have that there. A lot of those things you're going to be able to pick up that's a violation. Making substantial misrepresentations or false promises, violating any of the things we've already just talked about, not responding to the Real Estate Commission within 30 days, not disclosing you're a licensee on a contract, putting a for sale by owner sign up when you're a licensee and you don't have it listed with your broker and you don't have owner agent, having a net listing, having a listing with no expiration date, advertising a property without a written listing agreement. All of these things you're going to be able to read through and say, wait a minute, that's probably a violation, and that's what most of this comes from here, okay? Paying a fee to someone who doesn't have a license, guaranteeing a future profit, being found guilty in a court of law for certain things, representing a real estate broker other than the broker you work for, accepting a commission from anyone but your own broker. using prizes, money, gifts. So all of that's just a repeat of what we've already talked about. And it goes over on this same paragraph. And I really think once you read through some of these questions, you'll be fine. So, a lot of this is here. I think you'll be able to brief over at one time and be fine. They talk about some penalties. This could be a question. Any provision of the sections when you're found guilty is called a Class B misdemeanor. Okay, so make note of that. And we're getting down to the end here. And again, talks a lot about different things, but I think you'll just be able to answer those when you see some of the things that you could be disciplined for. Now, we talk about brokerage relationships. Remember, the brokerage disclosure form is the current form prescribed by the commission. You cannot alter it. You need to provide that at the first practicable opportunity. It's only for residential properties and properties that are 1 to 4 family. So buyers, sellers, landlords, tenants, you've got to give them that broker disclosure form so that they know there are some agency choices in Missouri. So talk a lot about that here. We talk a lot about some of the definitions for brokerage relationships. A customer, they're not in any kind of written relationship. So remember that the customer could be a seller, buyer, tenant, landlord, in which a licensee is involved in, but who has not entered into an agency relationship. Designated agent is a licensee named by a designated broker as the limited agent of the client. Designated broker, any individual license, is a broker who is operating. Mayfield Real Estate Inc. would be the designated broker in my case. A transaction broker is a licensee named as a designated broker or deemed appointed by a designated broker as the transaction broker for the client. Dual agency is when you're working both sides. Same way with dual agent, single agent, buyer's agent. Most of those are pretty self-explanatory. And then we talk about subagent. And transaction broker, just remember, as a transaction broker, you cannot advocate for either party or give advice. You can't give advice or interpret things. I could give you comps, but I can't interpret them for you. So as a transaction broker, not going to be involved in any of that. Now, there was one thing, and I had somebody tell me today, and I actually developed this little cheat sheet. It's kind of a spreadsheet that I think will help you out. But one of the things that it asks about as a licensee is that you are not, in Missouri, you're not required to perform an independent investigation to look stuff up, okay? In other words, even though you have some duties for a buyer, let's say you're a buyer's agent, it's not your responsibility to try to do an independent inspection of the property, okay? You do have to disclose anything you know or should have known, but you do not have to do any kind of independent investigation of that. So I've got this cheat sheet that breaks some things out, and I've got some duties of different parties over on this page. A couple of other things I just want to make note. You do not have to disclose psychologically impacted properties, gang activity, murder, suicide, HIV or AIDS. You do not have to disclose that as an agent, okay? Now, if there is something that you do know, like the basement leaks or there was a fire or anything like that that's a material defect, buyer side or seller side, you have to disclose that. But keep in mind the psychologically impacted properties. You're not required to disclose those types of items, and they like those questions on the test. So go over, I'm going to have these cheat sheets in your dashboard, and I think if you go through these and read them, and you go through it with the audio with me, watch the video once or twice, it's right at 1 hour it looks like, in a couple of seconds. But so I didn't go over like each and every bullet point, but I encourage you to read through these cheat sheets because it really just pulls everything out and brings it together for you. Remember, you can always reach out to me if you have questions or need help. This will be in video format and podcast format, so I encourage you to listen to it. Hopefully, we covered well more than 40 bullet points, so if you go through this and listen to it and go back through those new Missouri exam questions I have in your dashboard, some of those you're going to do fine. You're going to pass the state portion of the test. So I hope this was helpful. I know it's pretty lengthy, but it's the full Missouri part of the course. But keep studying hard and think positive, and you're going to do fine.